Test.
Green light. Give it all you got.
qualifying session for round 5 of the Cmsc Race at Home ACC Championship of 2024. We're here at the infamous Nürburgring GP circuit in Germany, And the lap times, and we are about 5 minutes into qualifying at the moment, with Angelo Sinaratne currently leading the way out at front. Savi Ratnayaka was out for a lap. He is the lead car on this qualifying grid at the moment. He has not been able to set a representative lap time as of yet, as he must have exceeded track limits on his first lap out. However, Savi will be able to rectify his potential mistake with a valid lap time this time round. He is being closely pursued by Shane Birkun. Shane driving the McLaren once again this weekend. He seems to be catching Savi quite a bit, so I believe Savi might be lifting off just a bit to let Shane through here. Good sportsmanship there. Savi might just be on an outlap at the moment. Shane attacking this high-speed left-right chicane. Usually in F1 circuit races, we see that chicane being the very tight, hard-braking chicane we're used to seeing. However, here in the GT3 world, we see a much more smooth, flowing left-right chicane. As Shane Birkun comes across the line, and he sets a new fastest personal best lap time of a 156.607. However, Tehane Eranga behind has only gone and set the fastest lap time of the session so far. The championship leader setting down a benchmark of a 154.290 as of now. So as we return to the action, we see Shevan Vitarna making a comeback to ACC after potentially missing a round. He has not set a representative lap time as of yet. One of 3 drivers to not do so at the moment, along with Savi Ratnayaka and Ranilou Karnaratne. However, in front of him is the man in P2 in hot fire form at the moment, Angelo Sinaratne, coming off his lights to flag victory in Paul Ricard, which was unfortunately not streamed last weekend. However, it was a sensational display of consistency and clean, cool, calm driving by Angelo Sinaratne, as he was able to take that Aston Martin to the top step for the first time this season, after being second to Tehane Eranga in a couple of the races. We had Angelo Sinaratne, I believe, finishing second in Silverstone. We had Angelo also bringing home P2 in Misano, as he parks up on the main straight to take himself back to the pits. We have Shevan Vitarna. He needed a lap time, and he has set one. He has got himself into 4th, with Denan Abesekra close behind, setting a lap time good enough for P2, but it is still 6/10 off the time of Tehane Eranga. However, Denan is now the second driver into the 1 minute 54s, alongside potentially Angelo Sinaratne on the brink of being in the 125s at the moment, but he has also set a 1 minute 24 lap time. My apologies. As I said, he's on the brink of the 154s, should I say. He set a 155.007. Shane Birkun rounding things off in P5. We are not able to see Brian Pereira today, as he has come under the weather. He is unwell today, so we wish Brian a speedy recovery. We are unable to see Fawzul Alim today as well, due to some external matters. So we're already missing 2 big guns in this championship. Fawzul and Brian, consistent top 5, top 4 finishes this season. So this race will ideally be a very, very good chance for Tehane Eranga to potentially seal the championship. I don't believe it is mathematically possible to seal the championship just yet. However, things are definitely on the up for Tehane Eranga, as is the rule with the drop with the drop round rule, these drivers are competing in 6 rounds of this ACC championship, which means that one of the rounds would essentially be possible to drop from their overall standings, which means that their top 5 best finishers would necessarily be taken to their final standings, which allows drivers to have the opportunity to miss a race due to external reasons or due to unavoidable reasoning, such as is the case with Brian this weekend, and they'd still be able to be in the championship fight irrespective. So let's say you were to be unfortunate to have a connection error such as Sabi faced in round 1 in Silverstone, you'd be able to essentially come back into the championship fight with your next 5 rounds, your best 5 rounds. As we look further back on the field, Sabi Ratnaik crosses the line to finally set a representative lap time, and it's good enough to put him into 5th. That Lamborghini was said to struggle just a little bit around the dynamics of this circuit, but there was also a similar case for Denan Abeseka's Ferrari, the McLaren of Siobhan Garner. But all in all, Savi does have more time, surely has more time in the bag. At the moment he has set a 1 minute 55.850. That is still his first representative lap time. He has 3.5 minutes to try and set a quicker lap time on the road, as we see Denan Abeseka coming out of the pits. Potentially this might be his actual run. He's just exited the pits, a brief wait in the pits, and I believe he has now completed his outlap. He is pushing. Yes, you can see him taking that Ferrari to the limit. We're right on board with Denan throughout this lap, just to see just how smooth and flowing he can make that Ferrari through the undulating elevation changes and bumpy nature of the circuit. You can see the fast left-right chicane, ideally in 3rd gear in some cars such as the McLaren. However, it can be kept in 4th in the cars such as the Ferrari, down into 2nd or 3rd gear based on driver preference into the sharp left-hander, but ideal to keep it in 3rd with more of a smooth flowing exit onto this long back straight, heading into the final chicane. We see Angelo Senaratne has jumped Denan Abeseka into 2nd. Angelo finally in the 1 minute 54s, and he has set a lap time of approximately a 1 minute 54.8. As we see Denan Abeseka, he will be looking to set a faster lap time here. It looks painfully slow through the final corner, but that is a smooth line Denan has been able to take through there. Where will this put Denan? It's a 155.1, so it is not an improvement from Denan. He was not able to go faster, but I have no doubt that he will be on another flyer yet again. We see Shan Amarasinghe. He's been struggling for pace a little bit this weekend, and as he comes into the pits, he currently sits in P9. We have Tarun Gunasena, a new addition to this year's championship. He's also running the Lamborghini, similar case to the likes of Sabi Ratnaik. Will Tarun come into the pits? No, he seems to be on a flyer lap. Tarun joining the M class this weekend. Oh, it's a very, very oversteery mid-corner moment for Tarun as he comes across the line to not make an improvement. That final corner seemed to do enough damage to his overall run. But here's the man of the hour, the pole sitter, Tehan Eranga, currently navigating his way through the back straight. Will we see yet another improvement from Tehan Eranga here? He glides his way through that fast left-right chicane. Tehan in the powerful Ford Mustang. This car would definitely be the powerhouse down these long straights here at Nürburgring, but does it have enough downforce to give him just that extra edge? And what a lap time that is, a 153.877. Tehan Eranga is the first man into the 153s. Can Angelo put out a response to that? No, it's a 154.7. It's an improvement from Angelo, but it's only an improvement by around 1/10 of a second. It still puts him 8.5 tenths behind Tehan Eranga in P2. Shane Virakun has slightly dropped down from where he was sitting earlier on in the session. As we see many of the cars in the pits, Savi Ratnaik goes faster and he goes into 4th position. We have four of the big powerhouses of the Pro class currently sitting in the top 4 of the grid at the moment. Savi still 1.7 seconds behind Tehan Eranga, but he has set a 155.5 as of now. As we wait to see whether there are any more runs to be completed, I believe Angelo Senaratne is still out there looking to complete a lap time. Denan Abesekra is also on track at the moment. He has completed his out lap, and I believe he is on his final flying lap. Now, we have 4 drivers currently on track trying to improve their lap times. Will we see any improvements from anyone? Will we see anyone able to even get close to the monstrous lap time set by Tehan Eranga? Angelo, heavy braking into the smooth flowing left-right, heading into the final sector of this Nürburgring track. It's very neat and tidy so far from Angelo. The Aston Martin does not have the legs of the Ford Mustang, so I don't see Angelo Senaratne being able to match the same lap time as Tehan Eranga, but just how close can he get, and can he retain that front row start with the mighty Ferrari of Denan Abesekra? We know that Ferrari is good with its downforce, but when it is tuned up properly, we saw in Paul Ricard that Denan was able to get that extra top speed capability of the Ferrari. But what is Angelo Senaratne able to do here? It's a 154.590. It's an improvement, but only by a tenth of a second once again. Who else is on a lap to try and improve? Shane Birakoon comes across the line. It's not an improvement. It's a 158.3. We have Centuran coming around into he peels off into the pit. So it's only Denan Abesekra that can actually do anything about Tehan Eranga on pole. Will he be able to get pole position, or will he be able to dispatch Angelo Senaratne off the front row of the grid? It's a very wide line through the final corner. Will we see an improvement? No, there is no improvement for Denan Abesekra. He might have just lost too much time in that final corner. And so it's Tehan Eranga who leads the way in qualifying here at the Nürburgring by a whopping 7/10 of a second to Angelo Senaratne. Angelo followed by Denan Abesekra, then Savi Ratnayaka, Shevan Vitharina, and the rest of the bottom 5 of the top 10. So we see everybody currently seated in the pits waiting for a small cool down to take place, and they will all soon be transferred over within a minute to the grid for the official grid start. Here we have car number 1, P1, Tehan Eranga, absolutely dominating today, and not just today but the whole season. Tehan has been in some super hot fire form, and for once someone else was able to win an ACC race in the form of Angelo Senaratne last weekend at Paul Ricard. But will there be a similar case this time around? And as we wait for the official start to the race to begin, see the cars slowly start to line up on the grid. So the grid, we have Sentharan Srivalenathan rounding out the back of the grid in P10, followed by Shan Amarasinghe in P9, Ranidu Karunaratne in P8, followed by Shane Virakun starting P7, Tarun Gunasena doing very well starting in P6, with Shevan Vitharana, the highest of the N-class starters, starting in P5, followed by Savi Ratnayaka from RT Racing starting 4th, alongside Denan Abesekara. Angelo Senaratne starts one row ahead of his RT teammate on the dirty inside line, with Tehan Eranga, a pole sitter, starting from the first slot off the grid with a dominant display in qualifying, being 7/10 ahead of the rest of the grid. Here we go. So we join back here at the Nürburgring for the much anticipated start to this sure to be close race. Tehan Eranga quite dominant at the front, making it seem like the race win might be quite difficult to achieve for any of the other drivers, but anything is possible here in the ACC world. One small collision with someone is all it takes to send someone to the back of the grid, and with the tight hairpin nature of this Nürburgring first corner, there's sure to be some sort of chaos into turn 1. It's not what we want to see. We'd be very hopeful that the drivers are able to take it cleanly and not ruin each other's races. However, anything is possible here at Nürburgring. We've seen it in F1, we've seen it in GT3 Cup racing as well. Turn 1 doesn't necessarily have the most suitable optimal line, as having a wide entry and mid-corner point in this turn 1 corner can still be beneficial, as it's an immediate left, long, slow left-hand corner, which means even if you're the car on the outside into turn 1, as long as you don't get sideswiped by the car on the inside, you could potentially still have a good run out of the corner with good traction, being on the outside. The same could be said for the inside, as being on the inside would allow you to basically have a lunge, have a bit of a run down the inside, and essentially just take the place. Now I see the drivers pairing up at the moment. Does this look likely to be a rolling start? There could potentially be a change in rulings with the way that starting procedures are being done here at the ACC Championship. The cars are currently lined up side by side. This could also just be a way of lining up and forming themselves on the grid for a grid start. And I believe that is entirely the case, as the cars now come to line up as no, it's a rolling start. The green flags are out. This means that there has been a starting procedure change for this race start, as Tehan Eranga leads the way into turn 1 behind Denan Abesekra, goes down the inside into turn 1, but as I said, Angelo Senaratna is able to hold the outside line and have the inside line for the next long left-hander. But look behind for Savi Ratnayaka. Is he able to have a bit of a move on Denan Abesekra down the inside? No. Denan is able to hold off Savi Ratnayaka for the time being. There is contact behind, severe contact behind, between Ranindu and Shan Amrasinghe. Once again, no love lost between these two rivals from Paul Ricard, with Tarun dropping down to P8 at the moment. Shane dropping down from P6 to P7 at the start. Shevan currently sitting in P5. Savi having a bit of a raggedy run out of the sharp right-hand corner, should I say, into the long, never-ending hairpin as they climb up the hill. Savi now sits in P4. My apologies for all the confusion is because of Centuran at the back of the grid being listed as P1 for a split second in the race, but it is Tehan Eranga who leads the way. He runs a little bit wide, so Tehan just getting to grips with the heavy fuel load on his car at the moment. It is yet to be seen whether that was simply a significant qualifying setup which allowed him to be that quick in qualifying. As we can see, Angelo Senaratna is currently actually able to keep the similar gap to Tehan Eranga on this opening lap. He lost about 2/10 on that straight alone, which is necessarily where Tehan is able to make the most of his gains. And as they come across the line, it is Tehan Eranga who leads the way by 1.3 seconds. But now, here we go. This is one of the battles to watch this race. We have Denan Abesekra and Savi Ratnayaka now starting to close on Angelo Senaratna. But look here, P5 and P6, Shane Virakun versus Shevan Vitarina. Shevan looked to let Shane Virakun through. Could that potentially be due to some good sportsmanship between the two, with Shevan being the lead amateur driver, or is that just Shevan getting into the slipstream of Shane to basically save some fuel for the long run? It's yet to be seen, but nonetheless, it is Ferrari being overtaken by a McLaren in this race. Let's look on board with the other Ferrari on the grid. We have Denan Abesekra now closing in once again on Angelo Senaratna. Angelo's first lap pace is all to nothing in the final sector, as he was only 5/10 behind Tehan coming into the final sector, but that gap has just rapidly increased from 5/10 to 1.7 seconds in the space of a lap. There is the dominance of Tehan Eranga coming into play. It might have just been that small error Tehan had in this mini sequence of the circuit, which allowed Angelo to basically catch up. But now, let's take a look at the gains and downforce levels of these two cars. How is Angelo's aero and downforce levels in comparison to Denon's? I believe Angelo might just be running a little bit less downforce on his car than Denon, maybe to be able to challenge Tehaneranga in the long run. However, it looks pretty equal between the two, as we ride back with this crucial battle between Shane Rirakun and Shevan Vittarana. This looks to be yet another one of those battles which is going to continue race long, as the Ferrari looks to get past the McLaren. Down the inside goes Shevan Vittarana. Nothing doing there. He's just had a look down the inside, maybe to... Oh, there is a bit of a cone being thrown about behind, with yet another battle taking place between Shan Amarasinghe and Tarun Gunasena. However, further front we have Shevan really putting the screws to Shane Rirakun. Shevan really pressurizing Shane at this stage of the race. We are only 5 minutes into the race, we still have a full 55 minutes to go. However, Shevan is really ringing the bells off the tires of that Ferrari. Just idling his way in the slipstream of Shane. Shane goes a little wide. There is the error from Shane, induced by the constant pressure of Shevan. That was some high level driving by Shevan, as Shan Amarasinghe, struggling at the moment, is being caught by Tarun. Tarun seemed to have more pace in qualifying. He qualified a mighty P6. However, is he able to get the place of Shan Amarasinghe? Shan, known to be one of the most notorious defenders on this grid. When push comes to shove, you wouldn't want to be behind Shan. However, it's always amazing to watch Shan be the Minister of Defense of this field, and really be able to do just that against Tarun today. It would be a great haul of points for Shan if he's able to finish in P7, but there is 54 minutes left, as Tarun is right on the back of Shan. Shan diving into the pits already. Is this to make his mandatory pit stop, or it is to take his drive-through penalty? Oh, that is highly unfortunate for Shan, as it looked like he was just getting stuck into the battle with Tarun Gunasena, but however it has come to nothing, as he has a drive-through penalty to serve, potentially for a collision with Ranadu on the first lap, or would it be Senku? At the front, Sabi Ratnayaka currently sits P4 behind Denon Abisekara. Denon has just fallen back to about just over a second behind Angelo, maybe to cool his tires down, get out of the dirty air of Angelo Senaratna. However, it has allowed Sabi to basically get closer to Denon, maybe force Denon into an error, the same way Shevan is able to force Shane Rirakun into an error. However, these three in second, third, and fourth seem so closely matched here today. This might all come down to strategy at the end of the day, as Tehaneranga is currently out front leading the way by about 3.4 seconds in just 3 laps. He's gaining almost a second lap right now. Sabi riding the bumps there in that Lamborghini. The Lamborghini doesn't seem to enjoy the bumpy surface of this track, but neither does the Ferrari. However, a car which I believe would enjoy the bumps just a little bit are the Aston Martin of Angelo Senaratna. Angelo starting to get into his groove. He's pulling out about a couple of tenths a lap, maybe 3 tenths a lap on Denon. The gap is now 1.2 seconds. As you can see, Denon closes up on Angelo just a little bit in that final sector, but only by a tenth of a second, which just goes to show that the downforce levels of the Aston and the Ferrari today are fairly similar, and it's just the likely nature of the Aston Martin that bumps off the circuit that's helping Angelo propel himself further and further away from Denon. Meanwhile, Sabi has seemed to make maybe just a little bit of a mistake, or he is just ducked off slightly, trying to get out of the dirty air of Denon Abisekara. As dirty air is a thing on this game. It does affect your tire temperatures, it affects the way your car handles, and Sabi is obviously aware of this and has dropped back to around 1.6 seconds behind Denon Abisekara. So the gaps have started to open up just a little bit. Things are starting to look a little bit more spaced out between all the drivers. Tehan Aranga still leads the lead by a comfortable margin, and Angelo downwards have now increased to about a second or more between each other. To ride with Angelo Senerat. Now the lap times of Angelo, Denon and Savi have been fairly similar. Savi has seemed to drop back just a little bit. However, the top four here are currently in a class of their own, as they are pulling away from Shevan Vitarna in P5. We'll ride on board with Shevan to see how his progress is going. He's managed to keep out a gap ahead of Shane Burakun. After that early race battle, he seemed to let Shane through early on, which caught me by surprise, but it seems to be that normal service has resumed now, with Shevan leading the way. And we're right back with Shane Burakun, who now lies in P6, nonetheless a good haul of points at the moment as he sets his personal best lap time of a 1:57 flat. We have Tarun Gudasena in his first couple of races here at Racing Home. Doing well, he's currently sitting in P7 once again, with good haul of points. With the reduced number of drivers on the field today, we're missing the big guns such as Brian Pereira, Fawzul Alim. Nonetheless, at the back of the grid, we have a battle brewing. It is Shan Amarasinghe versus Sentu Srivalanathan. Shan is able to go side by side with Senturan. Will he be able to make the move into turn 1? Down the inside of the BMW. Sentu, late braking, maybe outbroke himself just a little bit too much. This is one of Senturan's first races on ACC as a whole, so he's doing well to hold his own. Shan is just able to take the place of Senturan. So as we go back to the front of the grid, Tehan Aranga, already you can see that Shan Amarasinghe is in the first sector of this Nürburgring circuit, as Tehan Aranga is already reaching the final sector. So you can see, going just a little bit too deep into the fast chicane, the faster third sector chicane, but you can see just how smooth things are for Tehan. He's got everything under control at the moment. He leads the way by 4.4 seconds. His lap times are about 5/10 off his best lap times at the moment, but he could also just be controlling the pace at the moment. 4.5 seconds in the lead. He might be out of undercut range at the moment, or even overcut range for the time being, but you can never take anything for granted, as we've seen Angelo Seneratna, the likes of Angelo Seneratna in Silverstone, pulling off an incredible overcut to basically pass Brian Pereira for P2 in the pits and pull out what was a 3-second deficit to Brian Pereira to then become a 5-second gain after the pit stop, after the overcut. So nothing is impossible here at Racer Home. Tehan Aranga knows that he has a 4.5 second gap, but he cannot let that be too comforting to him. We're only 13 minutes into this race, and things have started to die down here. But once the pit stops start, that's when things will get interesting. We will potentially see pit stops being made around the 30-minute mark. A mandatory pit stop, or not mandatory pit stop, but it is mandatory for the drivers, as they would not necessarily be able to take this fuel load all the way to the end of the race. Tires is a completely another matter, but tire wear is quite heavy here at the Nürburgring, so it would be wise to change tires, as you do not lose too much time in the pit stops for a tire change. But as you can see, the gap Tehan Aranga has over Angelo Seneratna is staying at around hovering around 4.5 seconds and under 5 seconds, with Denon Abisekar still keeping that same gap to Brian. It's just increased a little bit to around 2 seconds. Brian is currently matching his personal best lap times, and we might even see a new personal best from Brian, as I predict he might set a 55.1 on this lap, and yes, a 55.0, as I was able to predict that because he is actually keeping up that gap, or even closing that gap with the Haneranga. It's not by much, it's by a tenth of a second. However, it is a good positive sign for Angelo Senaratna, who is trying his level best to keep up with the dominant force of this ACC grid so far this year. So we come back to the action with Dylan Abisaker actually making a significant mistake here in the uphill chicane, which has allowed Savi Ratnayaka to close up tremendously. Savi is now putting significant pressure on Denon Abisaker. It's forced Denon to take a very fast line into the final corner, but Savi has gone way too deep in the dirty air of Denon Abisaker. It's just cost him a little bit of time. He's run a little bit wide here. But is Savi Ratnayaka going to be able to use that error by Denon to close back up on the Ferrari and give him a good run for his money? Unfortunate stuff for Denon, as he has fallen quite far away from Angelo Senaratna now. The battle was shaping up to be a good one between Angelo and Denon, as it was a fairly close affair between the two. However, now things have gone quite sour, as Denon is much closer to Savi than he ever was to Angelo. So Angelo Senaratna continues off in P2, keeping a similar gap to Tehanaranga, but Savi Ratnayaka, this is where Denon made his mistake on the last lap and allowed Savi to basically close up. Is Savi running less downforce, which is allowing him to keep up and actually close up on Denon in the slipstream? It looks like that, as Savi has been struggling in the corners a little bit, but he has been closing up on Denon tremendously in the straights. So as we enter the back straight, how much time will he be able to gain on this back straight? He's closing in, he's just a little bit too far to make any moves, and unfortunately, as we are using the faster of the two chicanes here, we cannot see as many crucial moves into this chicane, but Savi is lining himself up well for this main straight, for a main straight move here on Denon. Denon moving a little bit more defensive, but nothing doing. Savi is not able to make a move, but will we get a bit of a switchback here, as Denon has gone pretty deep. Savi riding the curbs a little bit too much. Things are very close between the two drivers here. Two good friends here, but nothing, no love lost on the track here. Denon still defends Savi, but now we're heading on to Savi's strong area of the circuit. Short, mini straight, which allow his Lamborghini to just close up a little bit. Although it looks like the Ferrari might be carrying it. Oh, there is a big moment for Savi Ratnaika. It's a good catch for Savi. He's able to just catch the back end of the Lamborghini at the right time, but it has lost him his opportunity to make a move on Dernabe Sekura. Things are still close between Savi and Darren. Still only a 1.6 second gap between the two. So we return after a short break period. The gap between Denon and Angelo has actually increased to a whopping 8.3 seconds now. Denon has lost a whole lot of ground on Angelo Senaratna in this mini battle he's currently having with Savi Ratnayaka. The gap is still 1.7 seconds between Savi and Denon. Its gap has been building gradually, but the gap has also been increasing wildly between Angelo and Denon. The gap between Angelo and Tehan out front is still somewhat a similar gap. It's still 6.2 seconds, so we haven't seen Tehan Eranga fly off into the distance just yet, and as we see, the pit window is now open for 10 minutes, from the 35th minute to the 25th minute. Sorry, should I say the 25th minute to the 35th minute of this race. We're on board with Tehan Eranga. So when will we see drivers peel off into the pits to make their mandatory tire changes? Miranda looks to have everything under control out front. Things have somewhat died down since the initial lap battles we saw between Angelo, Denon and Savi. It looked likely to be a close affair between the three of them, but nonetheless, Angelo is still keeping his own, staying somewhat close to Tehan Eranga in this race. To the action with multiple drivers peeling off into the pits. We have Centuran and Tarun currently peeling off into the pits as we speak. However, Tehan Eranga does not seem to have made his pit stop just yet. But Denon Abesekar and Savi Ratnayaka have both peeled into the pits at the same time. Now this will be crucial to see whether one can jump the other, preferably. Will Savi be able to jump Denon into the pits. Let's wait and see what is yet to come. Here we go. Who's going to leave the pits first? It could go either way at the moment.
We're at the halfway mark. Keep pushing.
The Ferrari and the Lamborghini sit in the pits and wait, but it looks like Savi has jumped Denon in the pits. Savi getting out ahead. Was he saving fuel the whole time? It looks to be the case, as Savi has managed to jump Denon. It has not appeared on the timesheets yet, but it is certain that Denon has not been able to keep ahead of Savi in the pits. Now we have Chevron Bitharna with a drive-through penalty, most probably for speeding in the pit lane. So we'll look ahead to see Tehan Aranga, who gets himself is still in the lead. Angelo Senaratna, the man in second, he has not pitted yet either. We have Ranadu in P3 at the moment. Outstanding stuff by Ranadu. Currently in P3. Finds himself in P3, having not made a pit stop yet. However, he has Savi Ratnayaka hot on his tail, shall I say. Catching Ranadu, and he would be hopeful that Ranadu does not hold him up too much, as Savi looks to be in a decent position to try and catch Angelo Senaratna in a potential undercut here. This is a good comeback in time from Savi Ratnayaka, as he is not held up by Ranadu. As Ranadu comes into the pits, there's 2.5 minutes left. I'm sure Angelo and Tehan will come into the pits next time round. But Savi putting his foot to the floor. He is absolutely flying at the moment. He's pulling away from Denon as we speak. Will Savi be able to pull off a dream comeback and try and get into the top 2 of this race? Now the pit stops are being made by Tehan Aranga and Angelo Senaratna. Here we go. Where will Tehan Aranga and Angelo Senaratna filter out? I know that Tehan will filter out in the lead, but it's crucial to see where Angelo Senaratna can find himself. So, Angelo leaves the pits. Where is Savi Ratnayaka in reference to Angelo Senaratna? Savi is quite far behind, however, has that gap reduced? The gap might have well reduced. after the pit stops, which is a bit closer than it was earlier. And so Tahanaranga still leads the way by 7.8 seconds ahead of Angelo Sinaratna in P2. Savi jumping Denham in the pits, and crucially Darwin has jumped Chevron de Garner now, after Chevron had to serve a 30-second stop for a penalty in the process.
Closing now.
Gap between Savi and Angelo has actually increased. Bizarrely, it's now 13.1 seconds after being around 10 seconds. So has the strategy of Tahanaranga and Angelo Sinaratna actually, once again, the overcut seems to have worked far better than the undercut strategy. And Angelo Sinaratna looks to be moving along. He's actually pulled back on that gap between himself and Tahanaranga. Close things up a little bit. Can he do anything about that lead Tahanaranga currently has? Tahan might have just been held up a little bit by Chevron Vikarama, as Chevron made his way to the pits. So we return to the action with Angelo Sinaratna currently struggling to hold on to the pace of Tahanaranga out front. He is keeping that gap strong. He's currently just 2 tenths under his personal best lap time of a 55.0. But Tahanaranga just comfortably leading the way out front. Not too fussed about any of the proceedings at the moment. He's got it quite easy at the moment. He's just been able to eke out that gap. But Savi and Denon are still falling away from Angelo Sinaratna now. The gap was 13 seconds. It is now hovering at around 14.5 seconds. return to the action. The grid has spaced out quite a bit. Denon Abesekra, who had early race pace, has now found himself struggling in P4, struggling to actually pull back that gap on Savi Ratnayaka. Savi is holding P3 at the moment. He's comfortably holding P3. He's been able to see off the challenge of Denon. He was able to jump Denon in the pit stops. Whether that will come back to bite Savi later on in the race, with having to fuel save later on in the race, will be yet to know. Gap out front between Tehaneranga and Angelo Sinaratna has increased slightly to around 10 seconds, with Angelo slightly starting to drop off pace. He's now around 8/10 of a second behind his personal best lap times, and just as I've said that, he's gone and put in a personal best of a 1 minute 50, well, 3 thousandths off his personal best with a 155.080, whereas Tehaneranga has actually gone and set his own personal best lap time of a 1:54.322. However, it is not showing up as a valid lap time, so it might have been with a little bit of an exceeding of track limits. However, nonetheless, I don't believe that has made much of an impact on anything to do with the time gained, as he has also been pushing. It seems like Angelo has upped his pace, so in turn, Tehan seems to have also upped his pace as a result. As we size down the grid, we see a bit of a spin here from Shana Singha into turn 1. Might have just outbroken himself a little bit on the entry, as he is picking up enough and more rubber. He looks to be parking it up to go into the pits here from P7. This would be a real shame for Shan. As he drops down, Senthuran also now gets through. It's yet to be seen if he is on the same lap as Shan. But nonetheless, Shivan Vitarana looks to have jumped into P7 as a result of that spin by Shan. Senthuran in P9, he is a lap down on Shan, with Ranidu in P10, also a lap down on Shan as we speak. And so back at the front, Tehaneranga, he's pushing away. You can see him getting 2 wheels on the grass as we head into the final 15 minutes of this round 5 race. Is Tehaneranga about to set a new personal best lap time? No, it's about 3/10 off, but you can see just how much he is pushing that car. Angelo might just be about a second slower than his personal best here. It might be a 56 flat from Angelo. No, it's a 55.6. It's about 6/10 off, but the lap time was also almost 8/10 behind that of Tehaneranga. You see Savi Ratnayaka setting similar lap times to Angelo Sinaratna. We see a 56.4 though. That is significantly slower than Angelo, almost a second down on Angelo's time. As we'll see Denon Abesekra with a 55.6, so that means Denon has pulled almost a second on Savi Ratnayaka in that one lap alone. Will Denon be able to make a late race charge? We have yellow flags somewhere on the track at the moment. It was Ranidu. Ranidu has spun at on the exit, it seems, of the hairpin here at Nürburgring, and luckily for Tehan, it happened quite a bit up the road from where he was, so he was able to get through unfazed. Angelo coming up to the point as well. We see Savi Ratnayaka. Savi was able to jump Denon in the pit stops. It might have been taking in less fuel, it might have been not changing his tires, but nonetheless, Denon is pushing now, and we could potentially see a bit of a comeback here from Denon Abesekra to potentially catch Savi Ratnayaka out near the end of the race. The gap has gone from 5.7 to 5.5 now. And in the overall standings, we have an even split at the moment between the pros and the Ms, with Tarun Gunasena leading the way of the M drivers at the moment in the Lamborghini. So it's a great showing from the Lambo drivers today. We see a Lamborghini in the Pro class in P3 and a Lamborghini in the M class, P6 overall, but P1 in the amateur class. But now, the crucial gap we want to see here is the gap between Savi and Denon. This looks to be the building storyline come the end of the race. What is the gap between these two drivers? Is Savi able to just eke out a little bit of a gap here in this third sector of the circuit here at Nürburgring? We're still unsure of who is running less downforce between the two. It looks to be a very similar downforce plan between Angelo, Savi and Denon. As we see the gap at the end of the lap, Savi setting a 56.4, Denon setting a 55.7. So the gap in the final sector alone, Denon has basically gained 5/10 of a second. So you can see Denon is pushing to the max. He has 12 minutes to catch a 5-second gap. Will it be possible? He'll need at least 5/10 a lap essentially, or almost, actually he'll need to gain almost a second a lap realistically to be able to close in effectively on Savi. At the moment he's gaining around 7/10 a second, 7/10 a lap, which would get him there in 6 laps. It's possible. 7/10 a lap will get him there in around 5.5 to 6 laps. It's possible, but it's one thing to catch and it's a completely other thing to overtake, because you can see he's pushing to the absolute limit, getting 2 wheels in the gravel, dipping his rear left tire in the gravel, getting away with it. Heavy braking into second gear for this never-ending swooping right-hander. What's the gap? It's 4.8, so he's only gained 1/10 of a second on Savi, but that is usually the case between Denon and Savi in this around the circuit. The first sector is pretty even between the two. The second sector is also somewhat even between the two drivers, but it's the final sector where Denon's just able to gain just that little extra edge on Savi, and potentially I believe it would also be down to that final chicane, the fast left-right chicane at the end of this back straight, where Savi might just be taking it a little bit more cautiously than Denon. The gap is now 4.4 seconds, but this is the corner which Denon is strong in. Keep in mind, the gap was 4.4 seconds between them come the chicane. Savi sets a 56.0. It's an improvement of lap time from Savi. He started the push, a 55.4 from Denon, which means Denon has gained 6/10 on this lap. He's gaining 6 to 7/10 a lap now. It's possible. It is possible. At this rate, the drivers have around 5 or 6 laps more left in this race. I believe it will be 6 laps more left in this race. There is an incident somewhere on track, and it has been cleared up. It's Ryder once again. He has had a little bit of an off-track excursion, but it looks likely that he will be able to clean himself up, get going once again. I believe this was the corner he has had a little bit of a moment at, maybe under braking or mid-corner oversteer. The gap between Savi and Denon. This is the gap we want to be looking out for. As he cuts the beam, the gap between Savi and Angelo has increased to almost 20 seconds, but crucially the gap between Savi and Denon, 3.8 seconds. Denon has pulled in Savi. The first sector, strong for Denon at the moment. He's gained almost 5/10 in that sector alone. This sector is pretty even Stevens between the two. Denon usually only able to gain around 1/10 of a second here, but all Denon needs to do is gain 1/10 of a second here, and maybe 1/10 or 2 in the final sector as well. As we come into the final 10 minutes of this round 5 event. What can Savi really be able to hold off? 3.9 seconds. The gap has actually increased for Savi. Savi is pushing that Lamborghini to its absolute limits, as we can see him do a 56.1. Denon setting a 56.0. Denon has lost time in that final sector. The gap, he's only gained 1/10 of a second on that lap now. Denon, I don't believe Denon will be able to catch Savi now at this rate. He's been closing in sector by sector, but those 2 sectors, the 2 final sectors of that lap, have just cost Denon 3/10 of a second, which might not seem like much, but with how close the gaps in comparison to the times are, Denon needed to gain like 6 to 7 tenths of a second each lap. He has now only gained a tenth of a second on that last lap. It looks like Denon's chances for a podium might be slipping away, but nothing's over till they cross the finish line. Savi could potentially still suffer some sort of an error. Denon pushing once again all over the gravel trap on the exit of that slow, windy right-hander. 4.1 seconds once again. Denon, usually able to pull at least 5/10 of a second in that first sector, is only 4.1 seconds behind. He's only gained a tenth of a second, which would lead me to believe Denon might just be overusing his tires a bit. He might be overheating his tires a bit too much, because Savi's pace is not necessarily improved, more like Denon's pace has delaminated at the moment. So Savi is doing everything right. At the moment, he's keeping his cool. He's not making any dire mistakes which have cost him so much time. Heading into the final sector, the gap is 4.0 seconds. Savi's keeping that gap neat and tidy, but he is catching a lap car in the form of Ranadu Karnara. So we hope Ranadu does not get in the way of Savi. Ranadu heads into turn 1 very slowly. It looks like he's just letting Savi through here. He's slowing down to potentially let Savi through. However, any form of delay for Savi could be detrimental to his gap between himself and Denon Abiseka. Even the little bit of dirty air he's getting at the moment will be creating a big impact on his overall race, as he looks to be getting just a little bit caught up in the dirty air here of Ranadu. Ranadu does not obviously have to slow down. He is still in P9. He doesn't have to slow down, but he does have to keep in mind that faster lapping car is coming around to lap him. And he has not let Savi through just yet. Savi is still somewhat out of his frame. But there is Savi. You can see him in the edge of the screen. It looks like Savi might be catching Ranadu at a perfect moment, as he might be able to take the place from Ranadu on a straight itself. However, typically, a driver at this point would want to not see a lap car in front of him. He'd want to get past the lap car. At this stage, Ranadu is still sticking ahead of Savi. This is playing into the hands of Denon somewhat, as Savi will get a slipstream here, but I sense that Ranadu will be quite slow into this fast uphill chicane, which would lead Savi to somewhat be slowed down here. Yes, Savi somewhat slowed down, and Ranadu staying ahead of Savi here, but running wide, just letting Savi through now, knowing very well that he is a lap car, but Savi has lost a whole chunk of time there. And let's see just how much time Savi's lost there. The gap is 3.2 seconds now. All of a sudden, Denon is back in the game. Savi set a 1:56.9 that time round. Denon got 56 flat, almost a second quicker. And now, the question is whether Denon will be held up by Ranadu as well. I don't believe Denon will face too much of an issue with Ranadu, but I believe it's just a little bit too late in the day for Denon, as the gap is still over 3 seconds with 4 minutes of running to go. That would mean 2 laps plus 1 preferably, so maybe 3 laps of running left. He now needs to gain a second a lap, or over a second a lap, to basically catch Savi in time to make a move. And now Denon is catching up with Ranadu Karunaratne. Will Ranadu peel off away from the racing line to let Denon through? It doesn't look like it. It looks like Ranadu is just holding his racing line and slowing down Denon, but he gets out of the way perfectly in time there. Denon is now 2.5 seconds behind Savi. It's not over. The gap is closing, and it's closing rapidly. 2.5 seconds separate Denon and Savi Ratnayaka. There is around 3 laps to go in this race. Will Denon be able to catch Savi in time? And once again, it's one thing to catch him, but it's another thing to overtake that Lamborghini. Savi will surely make that Lamborghini the widest one ever manufactured the moment Denon comes up behind him. as this battle ensues. 2.3 seconds is now the gap. Will Denon be able to pull back a gap here? It's onto the grass. He's all over the edge of the track boundary. He's running the runs wide at the final corner. Once again, Denon on the gravel, on the exit. What is the gap? You can see the cars are much closer. 2.2 seconds. That lap round, Denon's at a 56.2, while Savi is at a 57.1. Savi's falling off the pace here. Is that shorter pit stop coming back to bite Savi now? Does he have to save fuel? Is he losing more tires at the moment? Everything's to play for here, as there are roughly two more laps in this race. Denon Abesekera is catching Savi with roughly 2 laps to go. Will he be able to pull back that 2.3 second gap? Savi looks to have things under control for the time being. Let's wait to see. We could potentially have 3 more laps in this race, including this one. But now, once they come up to this timing beam here, what is the gap? Savi is 22 seconds behind Angelo. It's 2.1 seconds. The gap is only reduced by 1 second in that sector, but somehow Denon was able to pull back a ginormous gap in this sector on that last lap. Will Denon be able to do the same? We'll go to the front of the grid, see Tehan around across the line to ensure that we potentially start 2 more laps in this race, unless the race counter ends as the time depletes without an additional lap. Unless we see the race finish under the clocks finishing, we will be seeing 2 more laps. But if the race ends with the timer ending, we will be on the final lap of the race at the moment. The gap between Denon and Savi is now just 1.4 seconds as they head into the final sector. Denon is pulling and gaining on Savi. Has he left it just a little bit too late here? We're closing into a blockbuster finish. 1.6 seconds. Denon lost a little bit of lap time on that final sector, but crucially, he was 7 tenths quicker than Savi on that last lap. Is Savi just getting a little bit held up here? He's been a little bit held up here by Centuran. Savi's being held by Centuran, by the BMW. Will he be able to get through? He does, but Centuran has held up Savi just a little bit. He runs wide now. Will Denon be able to get past Centuran? He does. But Denon is now on the tail of Savi Ratnayaka. Oh, that is very close stuff. But we'll ride on board with Savi Ratnayaka for the time being. I just want to ride on board with Tehan Arangad. I believe this might be the final lap of the race. The clock has hit 0. It's yet to be seen whether this means that this is the final lap of the race. 5 tenths separates Denon and Savi. We wait to see whether Tehan Arangad rounds the final corner to come across the finish line and win round 5. As Tehan rounds the final corner, I believe that is the end of the race. Tehan weaves across the finish line to win at Nürburgring. He wins round 5. Angelo Senaratne currently in P2, but we peel our eyes to the battle here for P3. We'll ride back with Angelo Senaratne weaves across the finish line to finish in P2. Tarun looks to be finishing in P6, but the fight's not over here. Denon is in the slipstream of Savi Ratnayaka heading into the final chicane. Will he be able to make a run in the final corner itself? This is going to come down to the final corner. Savi takes a defensive line. Will Denon be able to get a switchback run out of the final corner onto the main straight? It's going to be a run to the line. Denon is in the slipstream. Who is going to take it? It's Savi by 3 tenths of a second. What a close finish between these two. Savi judged it to perfection, and he was able to bring it home in P3. Centuran finishes off in P8, with Granadu finishing off in P9. Shaban Vitarana rounds off in P7. Tarun Gunasekara winning the Amni class of this race, but finishing off in P6 with a wonderful race in one of his first race at home races. We have Sean Anderson rounding off the top 10, and we have Shane Virakund who is in the final sector and who will come across the line to finish proceedings off in P4. He's getting very close here on the grass actually, maybe having a lapse in concentration. However, he does have P4 in the P5 in the bag, should I say, with Sally Ratnaika disconnecting at the moment. Chamber doing round the final corner to finish off in P4. And so there we have it. You have our race winner, Tehan Eranga, winning in style, winning by 15 seconds ahead of Angelo Senaratna, and my goodness, was it a dominant display. And so that is it for round 5 of the Race at Home ACC Championship, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you've enjoyed this gruesome hour-long race, dominated and won by Tehan Eranga, with Angelo Senaratna finishing off in second place, Sally Ratnaika closing off a close podium finish ahead of Delana Besekra, with Shane Virakun finishing off ahead of Tarun Gunasena, Shevan Vitarna finishing off P7 ahead of Centuran Survel Nathan, ahead of Ranadu Karnaratna and Sean Amarsinger rounding off the top 10. So that is everything. That is all we have to bring you for round 5 of the ACC Race at Home Championship, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow for round 5 of the iRacing Championship.